because the rule has been you're out of foster care if you turn 18 or you finish high school, whichever happens first. But for every Terry or every Joy or any of the other success stories behind me, think of all those young people who don't finish high school and who risk slipping through the cracks of our society.
In 1562, there were laws put into place to help poor children into indentured services until they came of age. This was later adopted in the United States and was the beginning of placing children into homes. Indentured services, at the time they were first developed, permitted abuse and exploitation, but it was a step forward from almshouses where children did not learn a trade and were exposed to horrendous surroundings and unsavory adults. Before foster care was developed into what it is now, there were various forms of indenturing children. In 1636, a 7-year-old boy became known as the first foster care child, and then later in 1853, Charles Loring Brace began the free foster home movement. Brace was concerned about the large number of immigrant children sleeping on the streets of New York. His plan was to provide them with homes by advertising in the South and in the West for families who were willing and able to provide better homes for these children. Some reasons for this included charity or to help the families around the property. Even though many children in foster homes at the time experienced similar situations as they did in indentured services, it created the foundation for the foster system that we have now. Agencies like New York Children's Aid Society were developed for the placements of most, if not all, the children that were a part of the foster system. This agency caused state governments to become more involved in providing children with homes and families. Massachusetts was one of the first states to take on this movement and were also paying the families who fostered the kids that were too young to be indentured. The foster system has a long history but has seen many improvements over time. The Foster Care Independence Act of 1999 was just one of the many stepping stones to improve the lives of those in the system.
Counseling and mental health care is something else that is improving rapidly in the foster care system. It is very important to improve the mental state of foster kids, as learning how to cope with stress is very important to being successful in life. Just like everything else in the foster system, it is a work in progress, but with activist help, it is becoming better every day. Counselors for the foster care system are not assigned to specific homes or families, but are assigned with different foster care agencies as counseling or an emotional guide to help kids deal with the trauma that have been associated with them being taken out of their biological home. Most kids are put into the foster care system because of problems with drugs, neglect, and poverty. According to Yvette Horton, one of the methods of counseling for foster kids is called translating. This method includes translating the child's behavior to both the foster parents and the biological parents, where the reasons for the child's actions are explained in detail, and then counselors equip the parents and the child to redirect the behavior when problems occur.
Aging out means that children become responsible for themselves when they turn 18. Being in the foster system with the absence of a loving, caring set of parents to help them be self-sufficient, they are forced to take care of themselves, which oftentimes leads to homelessness. Columbia Law School did a study in New York that proved every 1 in 4 young adults that age out of the foster care system end up in a homeless shelter within 3 years. The age at which a person can age out varies from state to state because they have developed extended services, since young adults are just not ready to be completely on their own by the time they turn 18 and need more guidance and help. In some cases, the states will allow the extension, especially for the people that need extra help to get on the right track for life. However, a lot of teens voluntarily leave the system because they feel they are better off on their own. The Foster Care Independence Act of 1999 was a stepping stone for change towards a day when foster kids are prepared for adulthood in both emotional and practical senses.
The history of child welfare in the United States can be characterized by a continuous thematic shift between family preservation and child safety. There have been efforts such as the 1997 Adoption and Safe Families Act to try and get more kids into adoption and out of the system. This would prevent the problem of a child aging out because they would have a family to go home to that loved and supported them. The Foster Care Independence Act of 1999 was passed on December 14th, and even though it had its opponents at first, it got passed with no problem. The Act's original intent was to increase independent living programs in states. The Act had provisions relating to foster care, the OASDI, and Social Security programs. H.R. 3443 incorporates technical changes suggested by SSA in a previously House-passed foster care bill. The Foster Care Independence Act of 1999 breaks barriers by being a stepping stone for future advocates. While it is criticized for not being a major success, available to youth who are aging out. Independent living programs across the country are becoming more and more. The Foster Care Independence Act in 1999 was a catalyst for reforms in the foster care system. People were beginning to realize that the system was not okay. Not only did it not prepare youth for when they aged out and had to survive on their own, but there was a cycle of detrimental behaviors that continued on through time. There is a cycle that occurs within the foster system, where a youth who ages out doesn't receive the support or the learning that they need in order to be successful in life. They end up exactly where life started for them, whether that be selling drugs, getting pregnant at a young age, or ending up on the streets. We spoke to Janine Baker, a former foster parent, about her experience with this topic. She explained to us that in her years as a foster parent, she saw many children age out and many children fall back into exactly how their parents were. She told us a story of how one individual foster child she had was placed back with her biological mother, and by the time she had graduated high school, she had already had one kid. Janine said that the last time she heard about this child, she had 6 kids, but only had custody of one, as she has never learned how to take care of herself, let alone any kids. The future is bright for the foster care system, as advocates are working hard every day to make sure that improvements are being made. One large improvement that is being made is the aforementioned independent living that is being provided for youth. States are putting more funding into independent living programs, which in the long run will benefit everybody. The Family First Prevention Services Act was put into place to help keep families together, provide mental health counseling, home parenting class, and substance abuse for family members that struggle with any drug or alcohol addiction. This limits children from being placed in institutional settings such as rehab or group homes. This can be looked at as yet another stepping stone for the future of the foster system because it could have the potential for reducing foster care numbers, which are growing every day. Change is constantly being made in the foster care system because advocates and legislators are constantly making improvements. Jamal Callahan is a motivational speaker as well as an activist for youth in the foster care system. In an email interview with Jamal, he described the emotional support he had while he was a foster child. He said, "In my experience, between multiple moves within the system, most foster parents were not equipped with the skills to focus on the emotional growth of a youth coming through care. This is a major problem in the system. Learning how to handle loss and process emotions is key to a healthy adult life." As an activist, he has taken part in changing legislation and policy to improve the process of aging out. Jamal described the changes in the system, saying, "The system has gotten better. A plus is that we are at a time where light has been focused on improving the child welfare system as a whole. So, multiple areas are being pulled apart so that we can truly see what needs revamped and improved." Jamal views his goals for the future as simple. Firstly, make sure young adults from this system have access to housing support. And secondly, to develop a way for independent living classes to be more effective in preparing young people for adulthood. The Foster Care Independence Act may not have changed lives instantly. However, it did provide an open door for advocates to do so much improvement that the system is unrecognizable from what it once was. The best part is that they will continue making improvements until they get to a spot where they feel they are comfortable. The conversation that this act started is monumental because nobody talked about this problem before. Now there is a conversation going, and it's not going to end until we are in a place where the foster system prepares young adults. Not only are they not adopted, they are completely. Teens in the foster system are often forgotten about because they aren't cute little kids anymore. And that is why it is so important to change these facts. Because even though they are older, they are just as important as any other child in care.